Hello, universe. Here we are again together. So, how are you doing? Staying busy, staying active, getting out there and participating in the world. Here we are. I'm in desperate need of cleaning up my house. Desperate need. Or my apartment. Or my condo. Or whatever you want to call it. I desperately need to clean it up. So I am now, two things that are sort of going on with me is I'm thinking I'm going to have to do a video further discussing the George Zimmerman issue because there's some things that have come out in the last couple of days with one of the jurors that really irritates me. And I've started listening to George Zimmerman, the 911 calls that went in, the one from Zimmerman, and then the ones of the people in the neighborhood, and looking at an Al Sharpton interview with with George Zimmerman's attorney, O'Mara, and a little bit of some interviews with Piers Morgan, and I don't know what his name is, but he's a conservative leader. Then some liberal people, and there's just a hodgepodge of stuff. But most importantly is, well, it's all very important actually. Very important stuff. I'm really sad about all these issues that we have. And I found myself, strangely enough, agreeing with Bill O'Reilly. That's not always a very logical thing to have happen for me. I don't tend to agree with Bill O'Reilly a lot of the time. But I do in this case. He talks about some very valid points. And a lot of us today. And really what I really dislike the most is they'll tell you things like with Juror B29 came on and did an interview, and they'll talk about how this woman doesn't want money or a book deal. She hasn't asked for money. Putting your face in front of a camera is notoriety. You don't have to be looking for money to be looking for exposure. It's one of the reasons I happen to respect Juror B37, who did an interview with Anderson Cooper and was completely blacked out. You couldn't tell anything about anything aspect of her except that she was a woman. And everybody knew that it was a jury of 6 women. So that was really public knowledge. But when GMA brought on Juror 29, who appeared in all of her glory with her attorney, and talked about the trial, she was, you could see who she was, and they pointed out that she was the only quote-unquote minority, which is not really true. People who are brown skin toned or Latino, brown skin toned people particularly, are more of a majority in America now than they are a minority. So that's pretty inaccurate. It's almost a victimization concept by saying they are the minority, because they're not. White people, believe it or not, are the minority now. Either way, the point is that certain people are looking for their 15 minutes, and she's looking for hers. And she whined a lot about how she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, and how she was complicit in Trayvon Martin's death. Wasn't her exact word, but she felt like she was forcibly put in a position where she was responsible in her own way for killing Trayvon Martin. And that's just dramatic. Absolutely dramatic. But she could have done that with nothing, with no visual exposure. She didn't have to do that. She could have appeared shadowed, just like B-37. She had every right to ask for that. I'm sure GMA probably offered it, but she didn't want that. She wanted the exposure. And why do you have your attorney appearing with you? Sure, B-37 didn't have that. See, what it suggests is that she's looking for notoriety of some kind. And I'm quite certain she will be looking for money at some point. And you may never know about it. She really wanted, I believe that just as much with someone who commits a murder, who's convicted of murder, that they should not be able to profit from, or they're not allowed to profit from their acts or from making books or anything like that. I think the same applies for jurors. I think anyone in that situation who is doing a public service, because that's what jury work is supposed to be, is a public service, should not be able to financially benefit from that participation. Now, mind you, that does not mean that they should not be, if they want to appear on a program in a shadow and give opinions, that's fine. I don't really have a problem with that. And if they have to be given a travel voucher to go from Illinois to wherever, New York, and the interviewers are paying their way, and potentially something like $50 or $60 or whatever, or $75, whatever it is, for their stipend, for like their food costs while they're in that city, that's different. But if they pay them beyond the time of the interview, and they pay them an excessive amount for the interview, let's say, because doing theater and film and such, when you travel, in addition to the payment that you get, or in addition to being like having your travel expenses paid for, they also give you what's normally called a stipend, which essentially means that while you're in that location that is not your home, you receive a daily allowance to buy food. Now, the average is usually about 75. It's usually based on the market where you go. What if, let's say, the average is $80 for food of one day in New York, you shouldn't be getting paid $8,000 as a stipend. That's essentially hiding money in a fee associated with taking care of you in that day. And unless you plan on buying an $8,000 dinner, or there's some reason to justify an $8,000 dinner, you should not be receiving that kind of stipend, if they hide it in that. Well, that's my point, though. I think expenses, if you want to voluntarily do an interview, and as gratuity for that, they want to, or as complimentary for that, they provide travel fare and lodging, which they should cover without you having to get money from them. They pay for it on a voucher, and they want to provide you with a stipend of 75 or 80 or whatever is equivocal to that market, then that's fine. But it's when you start making money, then you're doing it for money. And when you appear on camera in this sort of situation, and you could easily be shadowed, then you're bringing in, they specifically pointed out she was the only minority. You see, that brings race into it. That brings race into it. I thought people disliked the fact that people kept bringing race into the matter, and they were talking about how it was against the black person, or the brown person, or the African American person, and yet they bring on someone who is of that same skin tone, or considered a black Hispanic. I despise racial designations. I think it's creating a bigger problem. The point is that you're bringing someone on who is of that skin tone to basically talk about how she thought everybody else that was white let him go off because they were white. Not because of the evidence. As a matter of fact, I won't get into it. But anyways, the point is that when you're looking, it would be the same if George B-37 had gone unshadowed on Anderson Cooper. She would have been looking for notoriety. This was a case of notoriety, and it was an abuse, and it was her trying to get her 15 minutes of fame. That's just obvious. Anyways, the other thing is, what the hell was the other thing? What was I going to say? My brain is leaving me. My God, the time already right now. Well, I'm just also waiting to see. I have to wait a couple of days before I get an answer on the bid. It's not going to happen overnight. May not be till next week. Which means I have Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and maybe it'll be till midweek. But I do have already started getting doubts about how I addressed the presentation. The way I answered certain questions that they asked me at the end. I really wish they could have I really wish that I had answered those questions the best way possible prior to that. You know? Like I had better prepared my answers. And I was also going through my budget to see how I could afford to fill these machines. And I think I could fill these machines for roughly about $7,200. All in told about $2,000, $10,000, all said and done. Maybe less than that. They said they thought it was 13. I'm telling you it's 10. I have no doubt in my mind it's $10,000. It is absolutely $10,000 to fill these machines. Not more, not less. Well, definitely potentially less, but no more than 10,000. So I just gotta wait it out. I get really irritated with the media, and I feel like there is such an abuse of media in so many ways that it takes us apart rather than bringing us together. And there's so many cases where people are trying to make valid points. See, I don't feel that, and when I say mainstream media, let me be more specific. Network media, I don't like. ABC, NBC, Fox, I prefer more, I believe it or not prefer other opposite ends of the spectrum media. And why do I prefer them? Because NBC, ABC, Fox, all that, who is that? Cool. Alright, well I gotta go. But what I was saying about the other opposite end of the spectrum media is I prefer them because you can easily filter through the nonsense and the extremism on both sides and find the balance if you pay close attention. Whereas the network media, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, whatever the choice of words is, what they do is go with the guise of being middle ground and really more perpetuate issues versus analyzing them. They don't really analyze as much as they look for the good angle. Whereas as the other opposite ends of the spectrum media, what they do is they fight for their side and their perspective so wholeheartedly that you can look back at it, analyze it, go, okay, well they're lying about this. This is more accurate, the whole thing. So I do prefer opposite ends of the... So for example, CNN, CNBC, liberal. Fox News, conservative. Or not Fox News, but yeah, Fox News channel. But I mean Fox and Fox News are two different things. Network Fox is different from Fox News. Believe it or not. The extremism, look at Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, Rush Limbaugh, who I personally would like to give a swift hard kick in the nuts. Although he can make fun of himself at times, but overall I think he's a hypocrite. My personal opinion. And you have Wolf Blitzer, who I have a mixed opinion of. Piers Morgan, who I have a mixed opinion of. You know, I just, all these guys. So, end of the spectrum people, opposite spectrum people, I like to watch because for me it's easier to filter through the crap. I can go and look at it online and evaluate it. Whereas network hides behind the guise of being even-handed. And the other guys, obviously, they do not. So anyways, I'm going to get out of here. I didn't mean to talk politics today. I really didn't. It's just, I have so much passion for us finding equal ground as people across the board that I despise people who perpetuate it. I really do. And I despise people who try to cash in on tragedy. I really do. No one, absolutely no one, should be making money or profiting in direct relation to the Trayvon Martin tragedy. His death is horrible because whatever problems he had before, he never gets to fight his way out of them. And that's sad. The young man never got to evolve to finding peace within himself and to thrive. And there's things about George Zimmerman that I absolutely agree with when it comes to the Trayvon Martin side. And what the police even told him. But there's sides of it I agree with on George Zimmerman. But I'll talk about that in another video. Alright, I gotta go. 45 minutes long. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the world. There's just so much beauty in everyone. If you really look for it and try to find it. Live with passion. Live with passion. See you tomorrow.